It's Wednesday, October the 25th, and it's time for the 25th day of Halloween. It's also time for our final Hump Day horror. Today, we're talking about a real monster and not just the inspiration for one horror movie. Try 3 horror classics. We're talking about Ed Gein, who was the dark muse for movies like Silence of the Lambs, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Psycho. Trigger warning, some of this is really gruesome stuff. Now, Ed was born August 27th of 1906 and has several names that you may have heard of him by, such as the Plainsfield Ghoul and the Butcher of Plainsfield. He's a notorious serial killer and body snatcher who became famous in the 50s after his dark extracurricular activities became known. But in order to understand who Ed is, you actually need to go back to his childhood. Ed was a very shy and quiet child. He had a soft-spoken alcoholic of a father who really didn't participate much in his upbringing. Primarily, he was raised at the hands of his zealot mother, Augusta, who was an avid Lutheran, including Bible worship discipline and heavy chores as a part of everyday life for Ed and his brother Henry. Seriously, they didn't get to become kids at all. They weren't allowed to have friends and would actually be punished if their mother found out that they had made friends. After their father died, Henry and Ed began working odd jobs as handymen or babysitters around the area to help cover the living expenses. In doing so, Henry actually met and began seeing a divorced mother of 2. He secretly despised his brother Ed, finding him a little creepy. He also had a lot of issues with his mother, and he began making plans to move out so that he could be with his young lover. But that didn't ever happen because he met an untimely end. After a fire broke out on their Plainsfield, Wisconsin farm, many people rushed to help put out the fire. After the fire was extinguished, it was noted that Henry was missing. He was found later on the property. At first, it was believed that he had had a heart attack like his father. But some of the witnesses noticed that there were bruises around his face and neck, and it was changed to asphyxiation as the cause of death. Later, it was believed that perhaps Ed had heard about his brother leaving, some of his feelings towards the family, and had, in fact, done him in. Henry's death left Augusta devastated, and she had a stroke shortly after, leaving her paralyzed. Ed dedicated his life to taking care of her until she had another stroke and died in 1945. This left Ed completely alone, as he had never made friends. For the next 10 years or so, Ed was pretty quiet and a bit of an oddball in town, but really didn't gain too much attention or notoriety. Until in 1959, when the local hardware store owner in Plainsfield disappeared, and Ed became a person of interest, as receipts showed he was the last customer in the store. Ed was brought in for questioning and his house searched, and police couldn't believe what they found. A search of Gein's property led investigators to the hardware store owner's body, decapitated and dressed as if it were wild game. Additionally, parts were found to another missing woman, Mary Hogan, as well as various parts of the female anatomy from other bodies. Gein later admitted to stealing from 9 other graves, fashioning various body parts into odd items, like a belt made from certain female anatomy. He also decorated lampshades and did all sorts of things, very gruesome, that I don't want to share on here. Needless to say, he was the inspiration for Buffalo Bill and Silence of the Lambs. His relationship with his mother was the inspiration for Norman Bates in Psycho, and his general everything was the inspiration for Leatherface. He went so far as to fashion a woman's suit out of parts that he would crawl into to actually become his mother. Gaines died in 1984 at the age of 77 in Mendota Mental Health Institute. He died of complications from lung cancer and was buried on his family plot with his mother, father, and brother. Now, currently, his grave is unmarked because it was repeatedly vandalized over the years and even stolen in the year 2000. I'm not going to lie, this one was kind of rough, and I literally had to take a week and a half to research it in small increments because it bothered me so much. I'm glad to have this one behind me. Brightest blessings, y'all.